everybody, and welcome to the world's favorite youth baseball podcast, Clearing the Bases, featuring Coach Jimmy Filangieri. I'm David Friedman, and I want to thank you for coming along this ride with us. How we doing today, Coach?
Well, we're doing good today, Dave, especially because we have a guest that's going to help us bring the show in and bring the show out. Everybody out there, you all know that I speak quite often about Jonathan Reinbold. He's been a guest on the show, and he's become a very good friend of mine. So, how you doing, Jonathan?
Doing fantastic. It's nice to be here. I appreciate the call.
Oh, nothing better than talking baseball with you. How's things in Hawaii? Living the life?
They are looking up. Life is good. I can't complain. I pinch myself sometimes.
So we were talking, and you were telling me a little bit about you're going to play in a state softball championship.
That's right, the over 60 softball tournament. We won the island, which is Kauai, and now we're off to Maui for the week to play a little softball. I don't know if I'm going to be playing though. 60 caught up with me. I just turned 60, and first thing that happens, pull a hammy.
Ouch.
I'm not 30 anymore. I'm not 40 anymore either.
Well, look, we're not getting any younger, but I got to give you a lot of credit for getting out there and staying active and staying involved in the game. Because I know, Dave and I talk about it all the time. I've been asked to do it by several people, and I'm not brave enough, so I tip my hat to you.
I do it for the camaraderie, to be around the guys. It's, right. It's kind of like being back in high school.
Right.
Your teammates, and now we're going to all go to, it's a little bit different because you got your wives and kids in tow, but yeah, we're all going to head to Maui for the week and have fun.
So that's nice. So it's an actual week-long state tournament?
Well, it's 3 days, but, my wife and I haven't been to the island, so we're going to take a couple days.
That's great.
Just sightsee.
That's great. So a little baseball, a little sightseeing, it's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
So let's get into a little bit about our guest that we're going to have on today. Trent Mongero. I'm sure you know about him. My take on Trent is that he's one of the best infield instructors in the country.
Yeah, I watch his stuff quite often. There's a couple guys I watch, and as you'll find out when you listen to the podcast, what he's about and how he does things. And it's, with my background, sports psych background, I just listen to it and go, yep. There's a lot of good stuff that you're going to hear here shortly.
I've been trying to get him on the show for quite a while. He's very, very busy guy. He runs camps throughout the country. He's a high school coach. I know that he was very involved with his son at University of North Carolina at Wilmington. He was a player there, so he was involved with that. And I was glad that I was able to grab him and steal an hour of his time to bring him on the show.
Sure. I mean, he, like I said, he's got a lot of good things to say. And I think if people take what he says and can make it into action, they'll help their players out. He breaks things down very simply. And as we talk, we'll talk afterwards, but yeah, I think you'll enjoy what he has to say.
Alrighty. So I guess without further ado, let's get into it with Trent Mongero. Okay, everybody, so today we have a very special guest. We have Coach Trent Mongero. Let me give you a little bit about Coach Mongero so you know what he's all about. And really, to be honest, if you haven't heard of Trent Mongero by now, then something's wrong. Then you're not doing your homework. You should know who he is. So let me give you a little background on Trent. He's a high school baseball coach. He's a teacher, mentor, author. He does his own camps, and he's a national speaker. He was a 2017 National High School Baseball Coach of the Year. He's been the Georgia Coach of the Year 2 times. He's been in 2 state championships, and he won it in 2017. I mean, I'm going to go for a while here, people, so stay with me. Approaching 500 wins as a baseball coach. He's an author of a nationally acclaimed book called Winning Baseball. He runs an elite infield training camp. He's been on the main stage as a presenter at the ABCA convention, and he's also presented at 7 different state conventions. I can't say enough about Trent. There's so many things that he has taught me over the years by following him, and let's get into it. So, Coach, thanks for coming on.
My honor. Looking forward to it, Jimmy.
So, let's jump right into this, because one thing that caught me about you that you had said is that you call yourself a blue-collar baseball coach. Give me a little bit about that. What do you mean by that?
Well, really, when you think about blue collar, it's really nuts and bolts. It's, it's not about the fluff. It's about the stuff that works. And, I think we live in a world where people are trying to get likes and they're trying to get retweets and they're trying to put out fancy drills to wow people. And I'm really about what works, the nuts and bolts that are going to help a player achieve, help a parent, help a player, help a coach, help a player. And that's really what it boils down to, just a blue-collar approach.
So I like that, because I when I saw it, the reason why it caught my attention is because I feel like I'm the same type of coach. I'm a blue-collar guy. I mean, in my work, I'm an electrical contractor, so I'm a blue-collar guy. And I guess that kind of works into my coaching. And yes, I feel that the nuts and the bolts, the basic part of the game is what is missing. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I've coached for 30 years at the high school level by choice, but I've also done a lot of peripheral coaching, if you will, just like, being involved with other baseball events, showcases, travel teams, just, basically all the pieces. And what I've noticed, Jimmy, is that we are getting away from the things that really matter. You mentioned it, the fundamentals. And you can only do what you know. And as simple as that sounds, most people, they play the game, and whatever they're exposed to, they try to give that to the next generation. Well, unfortunately, we're giving less and less and less to each generation. And, just over the course of 30 years, I've seen the game break down tremendously. And an emphasis has gone away from really learning the fundamentals to just playing more games. And to be honest, there's a small portion of players that are going to figure it out, Jimmy. They can play games. They're going to figure it out. They're elite athletes. But there's so many others that we are leaving behind and doing a disservice by simply not teaching the game. And I just don't know if people are like, if it's a pride thing where they feel like they know it, so they don't want to embarrass themselves. So, they really don't expose themselves to the finer teachings of the game, the things that can really help players advance. So, we are getting away from the things that really matter. And I'm not really sure where we're headed sometimes. I'm just still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, see, I feel that a lot of it has to do with the fact that I don't think, again, to your point, that people have played, so they feel that they know the game, and whatever they learned while they were playing, they feel like that's enough. And they don't put the effort into it to educate themselves on what they should be doing and how things are done and why they're done the way they're done. So I agree with you 100%, because I see it now. And at the JV level, those basic fundamentals are really missing, and they're missing badly. And it's really hard to start. I mean, you're at the varsity level. I'm sure that you see it even just as much as I do. And it's very hard to start teaching somebody fundamentals when they're 16, 17 years old.
Well, it's really a domino effect. I mean, the colleges are complaining that, the guys that are coming into college aren't prepared. The high school coaches are complaining that the guys coming into high school are not prepared. And if you look at the players, they've all played more games in their lives than I probably have, and I played to the professional level, including, of course, college. And these kids are coming to high school with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games under their belt. Some of them probably approaching 1,000 or more games by the time they get to high school, but yet they don't know the basic fundamentals, not only just the fundamentals of skill sets, but the way the game is played within itself. Bunt defenses, first and thirds, rundowns, cutoff relays, whatever you want to call it, the skills help you play the game. And so the fundamentals, the baseball IQ, the situational awareness is missing. But, I don't want to be a guy that just complains about it. I want to be somebody that does something about it. And that's exactly why, I was paid to author the books Winning Baseball. They're approaching 15 years old now. They came with instructional DVDs. What's a DVD, right? Like, those are dinosaurs. So they've kind of, they're out. And now I'm traveling the country doing elite infield clinics, because to me, if people do work on their game, they take hitting lessons, or they take pitching lessons, or they work on, but very few people take pride in their defense.
Yeah.
And defense is extremely important. It's a very specialized skill set, and it certainly can help you advance your game. So not trying to get into what I do, but that is why I do it. So I think a lot of people like yourself and myself and others that are trying to make a positive difference.
Well, one of the things that I heard you say was offense. I forget exactly how you put it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it was offense through defense. And that's kind of what you were just saying, right?
Yeah, so, there was a tweet we just put out today, and I was talking about defense. And, the mindset of a defender is an offensive mindset. We have to be on an attack mode. Basically, everything on defense is done on a clock. The average runner at the major league level, right-hander, from contact with the ball to the time they touch first base is 4.3 seconds. Lefty, 4.2. That's average. Trey Turner is getting down the line in about 3.7. So every ground ball that a player takes on a 90-60 field should be done on a 4-second clock. Yep. I don't care if you're doing slow rollers, backhands, double plays, going whatever the play is, when contact is made with the fungo, by the time the ball gets to first base, the clock, stopwatch, what was it? 4.7 safe, 4.5 safe. And they just really start to develop this internal clock. But, going back to the point of offense on defense, so many young players, they don't understand the element of time, their lack of time. So how fast the runner is, how hard the ball's hit, how far did I have to range to field it, how good and how accurate is my arm, how quick is my transition. All of these little factors play into this internal clock formula. And, when people aren't taught, like me just talking it right there, that probably makes sense to a lot of people. But, the average player has no true feel for the application of that, if they even know what the pieces are. They just think you go catch the ball, you throw it, and if you get him out, you get him out. If he's safe, he's safe. Well, yeah, maybe coach machine pitch, player pitch. By the time you're getting into high school, there's a lot of people that can do things a whole lot better than that. And if you want to advance in this game to higher levels, if that's your goals, then you're going to have to put in some time and really figure out the baseball IQ side of things, which is what I'm talking about here, offense on defense and all the things I just mentioned. So, Jimmy, it's like I just broke down that, you can break down almost every part of the game. And sometimes you can, if a player's not ready for it, the coach is not ready for it, you can overwhelm them with information. So, yes. Being a teacher like yourself and myself, we have a good feel for where the pupil is, where the student athlete is, right? And does this player, do we need to back up and break this skill down more, or do they already have this and can we move on to something more advanced? Can we now start getting into the mental side of the game, what have you? So, but that's a skill set that teachers develop. The average person doesn't have that.
Right.
So the game within itself, think about it. What you're giving a T-ball player versus what you're giving a middle school player, totally different. Sure. But most people don't really understand how to break it down, to chunk it, and when I say chunk it, I mean put it in smaller pieces that are digestible. So the books that I wrote, Winning Baseball, they were developmentally appropriate, meaning there was a section, Jimmy, it was T-ball. And in the T-ball section that started the book, it had the basic skill sets that a person, when they finished playing T-ball, when a little kid, boy or girl, finished T-ball, these were the basic little fundamental skills that they had to have to be able to successfully advance with coach machine pitch. And of course, there wasn't very many things, right? It was very simple. And then we started building on it and building on it. So every single age group, there was this progression, this natural progression that their ability to handle physically and mentally those skills. And that's what we're talking about, building it up. But the average person, they don't really, have a feel for that. So they get overwhelmed.
Right. It takes a lot of work on the part of the coach or the parent
Right.
It takes a lot of work for them to learn how to do this stuff. One of the things that you said that was interesting, I want to kind of go back to, was you had mentioned about the work that a player does. Okay, so this is something that I'm finding out also, is that players think that they're going to come to practice, or to your point, they're going to take a hitting lesson, a pitching lesson, or whatever, and that's all they need. Well, I went and I saw my trainer and I did my work and that's it. They don't. There's not enough emphasis put on the fact that you have to put a lot of work in on your own if you want to keep climbing that ladder.
Yeah, baseball is a very unique game. It's a specialized skill set game. And, pure athleticism is not enough in the game of baseball. So it helps, but it's not enough, and I'm not belittling any other sport, but some sports allow a pure athlete to really excel without necessarily becoming super skilled. So, with baseball, you have base running, you have defense, you have throwing, you have hitting, you have bunting, you have hit and runs, you have slash, you got squeeze, situational hitting. I mean, then all of these skills have to be applied based on the situation at hand in the game.
Right.
And there's thousands of situations, based on runners on bases and outs and scores, all impact decisions that are made oftentimes instinctually. And so where does that come from? Well, you learn how to play the game through fundamental skills like you're talking about. Taking it, there's nothing wrong with getting a hitting lesson. There's nothing wrong with a pitching lesson. Okay. But there's so much more to it. And then the work. So it really comes down to this. How bad do you want to be good? Because, like if you're dissatisfied being a rec ball player, not everybody wants to be a high level, varsity player, college player, pro player. So, that person's not going to put in as much time. But the person who says that they're serious about the game, they're going to, it requires a commitment.
Yeah.
And I tell players at camps all the time, the window is small. The window is small. If you want to play in college, that's going to happen by the time you're 18, pretty much by the time you're 18 or it's not, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
I actually
you got work to do.
I actually feel bad for the younger players because everything is so structured, and I feel that they lose a lot by not being able to go out in the streets and play. Now, when I was very young, I was living in Brooklyn, and we played every single day. We played in the schoolyard, we played on concrete, we played, wherever we could play, and it didn't necessarily have to be baseball or a baseball game. We were just doing something with a ball, I believe it was you that I had watched, and this is going back years ago, that I had watched a video of a guy playing with a tennis ball against a wall, and I believe it was one of your videos. And I was looking at this and I'm saying, we did this when we were kids for days upon days, and it helps with your footwork, it helps with your throwing, it helps with your transfer, just so many things. And you're just a dumb kid, so to speak, just throwing a ball against a wall.
Right. No, I mean, we lived in a different generation, and that generation was outdoors, without cell phones, in many cases without video games, and you had to be creative. And it was a safer world, so you could venture out and play any type of game, and that's what we did. And sometimes you were so bored, you'd throw a ball against the wall for, a couple hours, and you'd make your own little games up and what's happening there is you're developing skill sets.
Yes.
Now everything, as you mentioned, is structured. It's a structured practice. It's a lesson. Your parents are going to be there. And I don't know that there's anything that we can necessarily do about that. I do feel like there's some pockets in America. I live down south, and I can't speak for the north anymore. I don't live there, but there's some pockets still down south, some communities, some towns where kids are still doing some of that stuff. Not to the level that we were, because, it's just not going to happen to that level, but it's still happening. Kids going out playing pickup basketball games, pickup wiffle ball games, pickup football games in the neighborhood, two-hand touch, whatever, tackle, throwing a ball against the wall. But if you can understand the importance of that and actually put those things into your life as an athlete and understand you don't need a structured practice to get better.
Right.
Oftentimes it's little things that you mentioned that will truly make you better. So, again, a big thing for me when I talk to parents and whoever the audience is here is not just, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but we're not doing it. It's not just we're complaining. We're trying to provide solutions. So parents, give your kids an opportunity as much as you can within the safe realm of the world they live in. Let them play.
Yeah.
Let them go out and play.
Yeah, without a doubt, what you just said, it's definitely not a complaint, because it's just the whole purpose, and our audience is youth baseball. So all the way up to the varsity high school level are the people that listen to us. And yeah, it's like you said, we're not complaining. We're just telling you from experience that this is what's going to help you.
Absolutely. So you can buy in or not, That's up to each individual person, I guess.
Yeah. And another thing that I had heard you say, which I thought was beautiful the way you put it, is you said, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but it was modify off of the details in training. And I thought that was just such a good thing to say, because, and what I thought you meant by that is, okay, we're going to teach you the fundamentals. We're going to give you a skill set. Now it's up to you to be creative, to use that skill set to become an athlete. Is that what you meant?
Absolutely. So I'm not big on acronyms, but one of the acronyms that I use at camp is FIO, and that stands for Figure It Out. And it doesn't mean like just go figure it out. It means we're going to give you the tools, we're going to give you the process, but ultimately your ability to handle that process well athletically, there's going to be a lot of trial and error. There's going to be a figure it out part to it. And most young people get frustrated very quickly when things don't come easy to them. It helps when they have good instruction. It helps when athleticism is promoted. We went through a generational time when I was in college, even in high school, when things became ultra mechanical in the game. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and we are really understanding now that that's dangerous, because you actually reduce a person's ability to be successful by stealing away athleticism. So we promote athleticism. We give permission to fail. Okay. You're going to struggle with this for a while, but if you have the toughness to continue to push and continue to work, you will develop, you'll figure it out, and things will start to come a lot easier to you. And then over time, that's when you really start to see those things show up in the games. Confidence starts to build, and then you start to see a special player, really from giving them freedom and allowing them to fail. And again, going back to the point of just figuring it out, we're not going to try to hand feed you every little thing. It's a game of failure, so you better get used to the figure it out part.
Yeah, we don't want to create robots. We want to create athletes. And I'll work with my players in terms of, I always use hitting as an example. There's 3 or 4 things that I believe have to be present in your hitting, and I tell my players, this is how we drill those 3 or 4 things. However you get there, that's your business. Like you said, FIO, figure it out. Okay. However, but just make sure that we're staying behind the ball. Make sure we're staying on top of the ball. Make sure this, that, and the other thing. And I will give them drills to make those things happen. But then I want an athlete after that. I don't want a robot. Let them think.
Right. That's right.
So
I love the way you put that, because to me, certain drills, practical drills that really work, that aren't like these showpiece drills. The body has to self-organize to be successful. So if the drill is a quality drill and the player figures out how to be successful within that drill, they've actually improved their skill sets. And that's the whole purpose of a drill. You're either attacking a weakness, or you're trying to build something into somebody's skill set. So, like you say, you have your staple drills. I think at every level you should have your staple drills that promote good mechanical movements within a swing, within a throw, within a fielding, whatever it might be. And when the players learn to execute these drills, it naturally makes them better, without having to talk and talk and talk and teach and teach and teach, because nobody wants to hear, a coach just, they want to play, they want to do. So I think, anybody that's listening, that's a coach, that's a parent, here's the hard part, right? Who do you trust? Because there's so much information out there. I think, it's kind of weird. There's so much information, but yet there's the least amount of coaching going on. I mean, I go on Instagram or Twitter and, sometimes I'm like, holy cow, that's really good. Holy cow, that's really good. I like that drill. I like that drill. The problem with baseball is, the basics require repeatability.
Sure.
And you just can't keep jumping around all over the map every day with something new. Right. You got to master something. We call it the simple to complex principle. Okay. Basically, you got to be able to master the simple, and then you build on and make it more complex and difficult, game speed. And over time, you develop athletes and baseball players that can really perform at a high level. Right. So you got to have some, because that takes time.
I was just going to say, and that's what's key there is, you said, over time. Another thing that I see nowadays that I need to hammer home to people to get them to understand. And geez, I'm pretty sure it was Springer that said it. I'm stealing this from him because I love it. When he said that everybody wants to be in a microwave, nobody wants to use an oven.
Yeah, Spring's like my best friend. We talk like every day. Probably 5 times a week we talk. In fact, my wife is flying out to California Monday, and she's staying at Steve's house with his wife. So, but no, yeah, Spring, the microwave thing, I want it now. I want to be great now. And what we need to understand is those players that we see on TV, the best players out of 8 billion people on the planet, they went through a tremendous process and a lot of failure and a tremendous amount of work to get there. They didn't just wake up, and end up in the big leagues. And any successful person in any venue of life has ups and downs, trials, tremendous amount of work. And yeah, if you're blessed with skill, it helps. But sooner or later, you're going to meet your match. And if you don't have a work ethic, you don't have a process to fall back on, you're probably going to crash and burn when everybody catches up to you. So it's kind of like that elite 12-year-old, right, Jimmy? Like the guy with the trampoline bats, the hot bats and the small fields. And they think that they're going to be the next major leaguer. And you move up to the 60, 90 high school field, and if the guy doesn't move well, he doesn't have a, fundamentally sound swing, those home runs are routine fly balls to the outfield. A guy can't find a place to play on defense. Next thing you know, he's, on the bench or cut.
And he can't understand why. That's the other thing.
And the parents can't understand why, because little Johnny was an all-star, through 12.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many guys, when my son Tabor, who just finished his college career as a Division I shortstop, he graduated high school at 138 pounds. I mean, he was very, very little. So you can only imagine when he was 12 how little he was. And he was on, back then, we still weren't in the complete craziness that we are now. It was headed that way with travel ball. But, he's playing major level travel ball. And I saw, because I'm a baseball, enthusiast to the core, and I can see skill, and I know what works at the higher level from coaching, elite level high school baseball in Georgia, which is, some of the best high school baseball in the country. I mean, if anybody shakes a stick at that, if they're not from the South, I want to say you have no idea how many, how good baseball is in Georgia and Florida. And so my point is, these kids, I would say to Tabor, you just keep working, stick to your fundamentals. You're going to catch up to these guys and you're going to pass them, because what they're doing right now is not going to work on a bigger field, and they also get a lot of players that have early success. They just think it's going to be that way their whole life. So they really don't develop maybe a work ethic. Yeah. Not everybody. Right. There's exceptions, but a large portion, and of the team that he played on was, like, again, a major level 12U. That was the first time he ever played travel ball, was when he was 12. And I would say that maybe 4 of those players actually played on varsity baseball in Georgia in high school, and only maybe 3 excelled. And 3 ended up playing in college. We did have 2 that ended up getting drafted. And the 2 littlest guys, Tabor and a guy named Parker Beatier, another little tiny center fielder, played at Georgia Southern. So the 2 littlest guys played D1, and we had the 2 other guys end up getting drafted, and the rest kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah. One of our very first shows, I kind of ran through the numbers for people to understand that there's approximately, and again, these numbers may have changed since then, but there's approximately 16 million kids involved in youth baseball across the country. Okay. And out of that 16 million, only about 500,000 even play high school baseball. So that, again, to your point, that shows you that you have to be good. You have to put in the work to play high school ball. Forget about playing, or even getting to college baseball. And I'm sure you've heard it just as much as I have. I want to go D1. And you say, well, D3 school is interesting. Oh, I don't want a D3 school. Well, wait a minute. You're playing college baseball. I don't care junior college, D3, NAIA, whatever it is, man. That's a damn good accomplishment to be able to do
that. Absolutely. And I don't know why it's on my heart, so I'm going to share it. But I think it provides perspective. College baseball, as you mentioned, is a tremendous experience. Doesn't matter the level. But let's talk a little bit about this D1 level that everybody talks about for a second, okay? Just to paint the picture of, it kind of opens people's eyes. And when I tell them, the players at camp, these numbers, it's not to deflate their dreams. It's actually to inspire their dreams, because if they truly have goals, they need to know what they're up against. You need to have navigation. Okay. My old business partner, Nate Trusky, that was his big word, navigation, but it's just a logical thing that you have to have a process and know what you're up against. If you want to go to California from New York, you better have GPS, road maps, and road signs. Otherwise, you're probably not going to get there. So when people tell you, like what I'm about to share, and that is, so I asked the players, so parents, how many Division I programs are there in the country right now? Like how many? They don't have any idea, they don't know. So this past year, I think it was 299. We averaged right around 300 Division I programs. That kind of sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Think about it for a minute. So you got the entire country, okay, of baseball players who all want to play Division I. So, I say, how many guys want to be the starting shortstop, your freshman year in college at the Division I level? They all raise their hand. Okay, that means you got to be one of the best 299 shortstops in America. That's not in professional baseball. That still has eligibility, So then this really starts to wake them up. So now they understand 299. Okay, so there's 299. So how many graduating classes from high school were eligible for college this past year? How many graduating classes? 6. So because of COVID and redshirting, okay, and your normal 4 years in college. So there was 6 years of high school graduates across America, 6 years. So if you're in 12U and you play 13U and you start, that's pretty good. If you're 12U and you play 14U and you start, you're really good. That's only 2 classes up. College is 6 right now.
Wow.
Okay, so 6 classes of graduates across America are fighting for 299 starting shortstops, 299 starting second basemen. This is what you're up against. So, having goals and raising your hand and saying, yeah, I want to play, I want to be in a Power 5 conference. Okay, what is a Power 5 conference? I asked them, what is a Power 5? That's the top 5 Division I conferences in the country. How many conferences are there at the Division I level? They don't even know. There's 30. Yeah. 30 Division I conferences. Okay, so you're narrowing you're the other 25. They don't matter. You're going just to Power 5. Okay, so each conference averages 10 to 12 to 15 different schools, right? So there's 300. So you do the math. So now just think about that. So basically, you have to be one of the top 50 shortstops in America for 6 classes of graduates to start at a Power 5 shortstop position, or second baseman, or third baseman, right? So that, to me, that's eye-opening stuff. You know what I mean? And my heart said share it, because I think it's important when you talk about your kid is elite, at 7 or 8 years old, okay, that's great. But can you keep them excited? Can you keep them learning? Can you keep it fun? Or are you going to burn them out playing 100 games plus when they're 7 years old?
Yeah.
What are you up against? Are you playing just for a scholarship? Are you playing for a scholarship? How many players are on a Division I roster? They don't know that. The minimum scholarship is 25%. Right now we're talking, what is it? Oh my Lord, I just forgot. Is it like 12.7? What's the number of scholarships? It's like
11.7. It's 11.7.
Yeah, 11.7. So I was out by one saying 12.7. 11.7 full scholarships divide 30 players. If you offer a scholarship, it has to be 25%. But very few people are getting money, and they're spending like thousands of dollars for travel ball, in the fall and the summer, flights, hotels, food, all in hopes of getting, if you even get a scholarship, it's probably going to be 25%, 30%.
Right.
So you better love it. You better be good at it. And you better understand what you're up against. You know what I mean? Otherwise, let's get back to just making it pure fun. How about that?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I love that.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, let's have some fun. Get out there, learn the game, play with energy. But it doesn't have to always be for this scholarship, Right. Like it's a carrot in front of a kid or something.
Yeah. The way I present that to players is what you're striving to do is you're striving to be the best that you can be at the level that you can achieve. So there's a certain amount of realism with that, where at a certain age, the parents are also a big factor. They have to understand that, hey, he's 15, 16 years old. He's projecting out to be a such and such level player. Let's be the best player at that level.
That's right. There's no doubt. And there's nothing wrong with not playing baseball in college. Not everybody's meant to be a college baseball player.
No.
Everybody's meant to be a varsity baseball player. There's a lot of people are blessed with a lot of different abilities, and to me, the sport of baseball, any sport at the high school level, the core reasons why we even play sports at the prep level is to teach life lessons. It's not for an athletic scholarship. That's not why we, created high school sports. It's learning to get along with others and to set goals and to do something bigger than for yourself, And if you can do all that within the realm and still be talented, that's the type of player the coaches want anyways. The team guys that understand the core values of what sports are all about, and yet they're still very skilled and fun to be around,
right.
Not super selfish.
Right.
And that's getting harder and harder to find. So I don't want to come across as, Debbie Downer or whatever. I'm not trying to, snuff out anybody's dreams. I'm really trying to paint a picture of, let's step back a minute and let's gain a little bit of adult perspective as to what we're really doing this for and what the kids really should be getting out of it. And if they love it and they're good at it and you can, they can make a college career out of it, great. Some guys are going to play professionally. Great. But it's a lot more fun when you can keep it fun.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think, So otherwise you get super frustrated as a parent, and maybe your kids are pursuing your dreams as the parent and not really their own dreams.
Right. And I think that's a good point. What you just said was, the parents do get frustrated, because my latest kick that I've been on is that the worst evaluator of a player is a parent. And the parent always thinks that the player is better than he really is. So when, things aren't going well, he's not performing well, his team is losing, they get very frustrated and they don't understand why. And they're always looking for other answers. Well, the answer is very simple, is that put the work in. If he wants to get better, he has to put the work in. There's no magic potion that's going to make you better. You have to put the work in, and that's it.
You have to put the work in, no doubt. And I also want parents to understand that failure it's inherent in the game of baseball. So, when you play this game at the higher levels, there's going to be a tremendous amount of failure. Steve Springer probably mentioned on the podcast, if you hadn't gone 0 for 20 in your life, when you get into college or professional baseball, you haven't played very long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most parents would be ready to jump off the deep end if their kid was, 0 for 20. The question is, how do you bounce back from an 0 for 20, keep a strong mental approach to the game, and, respond back to the positive side? The failure is just so much, especially from the offensive side. It's, so reevaluating what success really is. Steve also talks about this. What is success? Hitting the ball hard, quality at bats, because there's only so much you can control. So when a parent starts to gain a new perspective as to what success really is, not that you necessarily were 3 for 3 that day, but you had quality at bats, you might have lined out 3 times. That kid actually hit the ball better than the guy that's 3 for 3 with that, hit 2 cappers and a rollover through the infield.
Sure.
He's 3 for 3 on the stats, but, the other guy hit 3 line drives at the shortstop that were caught. I mean, if I'm an evaluator, that's the guy I want,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And the parent, my kid was 3 for 3, so why don't they want him? I don't know. I mean, there's so many rabbit trails we can go down, when it comes to all these little nuances of the game and people. But I think it's very cool what you do, educating people, and, parents, keep a good, healthy perspective, keep it fun. If your kid loves the game, provide them opportunities if you can. And there are certain guys that do get to play at every level of college and professional. So, if your kid's meant to be that guy. But I can tell you from having a son who just played Division I baseball for the last 4 or 5 years, he had a redshirt injury from a broken thumb. There's a lot of frustrations, a lot of pressure. It's a job for those kids.
Yeah.
It's not just all peaches and cream, right? So if you don't love it, you'll be miserable at the collegiate level if you don't love this game.
I explain it that, the biggest step that you're ever going to take in your career, however far it goes, is between high school and college. I think the step between college and professional baseball is not as drastic as it is from high school to college. So you better be prepared, because there's a lot of work you're going to have to do, not to mention the fact, stay on top of your schoolwork and this and that. It's very, very difficult. So you better love it. Otherwise, like you said, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah, 56 games in 90 days. And if you're not a starter, you're traveling, you're in hotels, practices are long, weight training, study halls, classes, frustrating games where you're not playing, not starting when you feel like you should. There's just, but that this is a game that if we can take those same core values that these college guys are learning and carry them into high school, carry them into youth ball, they can learn those lessons at a younger age and help them really navigate better when they get older, if we're not always out in front of our kids trying to prevent them from failing all the time. And I think parents are very guilty, many of them, not all of them, trying to prepare the path for their kids in every failure, just trying to pick those things up and move them out of the path of their kid. And they never learn to navigate and adjust and deal with disappointments and failures, because, this game just beats you up. I mean, every game has its tough points. Maybe golf, I don't know. I'm not a golfer. I hear people say that golf is similar. But, baseball, it's like a love-hate relationship, even for us guys that played it at the highest levels, because it's like you never can master it. So you feel like you got it under control. It just humbles you right to the core.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, there's something that I have to get into with you, because this is the most important thing that people need to understand, and I don't think that there's anybody out there better to explain this than you. I believe is the most important part of what we do as baseball coaches, and you're the guy to explain this, and that's catch play.
Yeah. I was going to stop you and just say, I bet you're talking about catch play.
Yes.
Yeah. So, if you can't throw and catch, you can't play. And there's throwing a baseball is one of the most intricate skills that the human body can do. There's so many different muscle groups that have to link up to actually throw a ball consistently well. And if you don't take pride and learning how to become a good thrower, you're going to have a very difficult time advancing through the game. And as a coach, if your team in general are not good throwers and receivers of the baseball, you're going to have a very difficult time winning baseball games. So, there's a lot of motivation from a coach's standpoint to try to get buy-in from your players. You have to sell it to them, help them see why it's so important that you have to throw and receive the baseball well. And then you implement drills. And, I call it the most important 20 minutes of practice. I've done numerous talks. In fact, I'm getting ready to speak to the high school baseball coaches in North Carolina in a week. They have their big convention in Greensboro, and I'll be doing 3 45-minute talks. The Duke head coach is doing, I think, 3 talks. I'm doing 3, so 6 total. I got 3 of them, and one of them is going to be on catch play. And, the youth players, this goes back to your drills you were talking about. If once you teach the basic fundamentals of throwing, and then you create a drill sequence, we call it a drill routine, where players are throwing with purpose and intent, not just getting their arms loose to go practice, but literally taking that time that most people think they're just getting their arm loose to actually become better throwers. That's the most important 20 minutes of defensive practice every day, bar none. So we go through what's called a simple to complex routine. In fact, Tabor and I are getting ready to film. I've had other routines, throwing routines on film before, but we are getting ready to do one again that's even more updated. And I can't tell you, being a high school coach by choice in the state of Georgia, I am an unbelievable stickler in teaching the drills. You have to chunk them for sure. Like, if you're a youth coach, 1 or 2 drills at a time, put them in, let them learn them, let them master them, then add 2 more. And then over the course of a month, you have the whole routine put in. Now, if you're dealing with an elite travel ball team, you can probably put in 6 the first day, or, you can probably within 2 weeks have that whole routine put in. There again, you got to know your clientele. But, yes, catch play routine, number one most important thing that you can do, bar none. And if you don't believe that, you are missing the boat as a baseball player, a parent, or coach. You have to be an elite thrower and receiver of the baseball, period. Yeah. And you got to be down there when your kids are throwing, because they're kids and they're going to get distracted. They're going to lose focus. You need to remind them, what is the intent of this drill? What is the intent of this drill? Now, you don't have to stop them and talk about it all the time, but a couple key words, key words, to help them remember what they're doing. And honestly, every drill is 30 seconds. That's it, once they learn it.
Yeah.
So you got to take the time to teach it. Nobody wants to take the time to teach it. Teaching takes a lot longer than doing, but once you teach it once and they know how to do it, now it's going to be done right from there on out.
Yeah. And so what I'm finding with the catch play is what you said, that yes, all through whatever little league, wherever they're playing, when they get to me, the very first thing that I tell them is what you just said. This is not to get your arm loose. Okay, this is a drill. We're going to learn how to receive the ball. Okay, we're going to learn how to throw the ball. We're going to do this. But one of the hard things about it is making them buy into that, because they've been doing for, 10 years probably, just getting their arm loose. So to get them to focus, to understand that during I've had a hard time making kids understand that you have to move your feet when we're doing this to be able to center the ball. Because they've been so trained to just, I'm just throwing the ball to my friend and that's it. So it's a hard thing, but yes, we have to make sure that we hammer it home that it's a drill.
Yeah, I think so. And I think when your routine gets pretty difficult, and they start to see that they're not very successful at it, even the players that feel like they're pretty good baseball players, they start to realize, and I try to show them how this particular drill relates to a game. So at the infield camp, if we're doing like a 360, which is literally, a slight jog forward, a full jump in the air into a 360, into a throw to a target. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, you're playing fetch. That's going to be fetch. You're going to throw that ball away, and that guy. But I tell my guys all the time, when Tabor and I play catch at camp, at Elite Infield Camp, we teach 20 drills, 20 throwing drills. Okay, we teach the whole thing, teach every drill. We teach 2 drills at a time, just like we do at practice. Then they go practice, then they come back 2 at a time. But I'm always making a connection back to what they do in the game. So 360, how does that apply? When you're going up the middle as a shortstop or second baseman and the ball's taking you away from the infield and you literally got to spin glove side and throw. How do you think you develop the body control to be able to execute that? So if you can get through this entire routine without throwing one ball away, the entire practice, you are an elite thrower and catcher of the baseball. So just start keeping track of how many balls you're throwing away, because literally I should be able to, this shirt I'm wearing has like my Dirt Bro logo from our infield camps is like a target on the center of your chest, and I tell my guys all the time, like, watch me play catch. They're watching me at camp. I said, I don't even throw anymore. I'm 56 years old. I just teach at camp. But every throw I make, almost every throw is on the money. You know what I mean? That's muscle memory, and that's from taking pride as a thrower. Now, I did not learn a lot of those drills till I was even in college. But I was a pretty natural athlete. I bought in and I sold out. I bought in and I sold out, and I committed myself to becoming an elite thrower because, ask the parents this one. How far is the throw, in yards on a football field? How far is the throw from the 5-6 hole? So the position 5, for those that don't know, is third base. Position 6 is shortstop. So the 5-6 hole is deep in the hole where we've seen Jeter make the jump throw from. That's the 5-6 hole. To first base, from there, how many yards on a football field is that throw? 50. 50 yards. So you got 4 seconds from the time the ball's hit. You pick up a backhand deep in the 5-6 hole. You got to throw the ball 50 yards in the air to a target at first base. Okay? Now you start talking about the skill sets. You want to play Division I baseball. What kind of range do you have? What kind of arm strength do you have? Most Division I shortstops, we give them the parameters. Most of them are 88 plus. Most of them, truthfully, are 90 plus. Okay, that's the arm strength it's going to take to, for the velocity to make up time getting across the infield. But yet you got to be able to throw super accurately. So most players don't even long toss 150 feet.
I was just going to say that. Go ahead.
The routine. No, it's not routine. It's difficult, but it's a play that's got to be made. It's a separating play, right? You want to be one of the 299 starting Division I shortstops. I guarantee you better be able to make that throw from the 5-6 hole in less than 4 seconds and hit that first baseman in the chest. Yeah. Okay, at least 96 out of 100 times. Yeah. So here again, you can't throw at an elite level. So you just start to weed yourself out, and what happens is middle infielders become corner infielders. Corner infielders become outfielders. Outfielders go to the bench, and if you can't survive on the bench, you get cut. It's like the natural order.
Right.
So you want to be really good middle infielders. So any of you that are wondering about camp, this is my camp promo, I guess. You better come to an elite infield camp and learn how to play in the middle, because in college, I don't know, did you look at the draft? I think they were just showing like the positions that were drafted this past draft. Pitchers were the number 1, which makes perfect sense, right? And then shortstops, I believe, were the second most recruited position, drafted position this past year. Right. So all doing with the shortstops, right? They don't all play short. They move them around.
How many times does it happen that you get drafted as a shortstop, you get into professional baseball, and they wind up moving you to the outfield, or like you said, to different positions? Because let's face it, shortstops are typically the better athletes on lower level teams, but when they get up to those higher levels, maybe they're not.
Yeah, they can't all play shortstop, so the best one stays at shortstop, and then the shortstops typically get moved around everywhere else, including first base. Yeah. And that's why I tell first basemen all the time, when they say, I'm only a first baseman, you better be the best daggone first baseman on the planet, because they can take third baseman, move them over there, shortstops, move them over there. If you don't move well and you don't pick and you don't hit well, you're probably not staying at first base at the higher levels, So exactly. I don't know how we got down this rabbit trail about shortstops, but throwing. because they're elite throwers. So
Right.
parents, coaches, best thing. So we're going to put out this, new throwing routine. It's going to be like 19. I'm talking to Tabor about it right now. We're like literally starting to write out what we want in this routine. It's simple to complex. It's applicable to every single position on the field. And, it's going to teach you what each drill does. And then, so we're going to have a Zoom where we can show the different drills in sequential order, explaining it. So the person that needs to really learn it, they can watch that long version. And then we're going to have a really short version where you see each drill for like 5 seconds. So once you learn, then you realize, okay, this is the drill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're 30 seconds apiece. And you're done in 20 minutes. That includes your throwing long, your pull downs, which are basically getting on top, throwing hard from second base back into third or first base, depending on which foul line you're throwing from. Those are called pull downs.
Yep.
And then your quick feet, quick release stuff to finish up at the end. You do that every day, you're going to be exponentially better as a thrower.
Yeah. Now, when do you think you'll have that ready to be released, roughly? Just because I want people to be able to look out for it.
Within a month. So our website is dirtbro, B-R-O, dirt, D-I-R-T, B-R-O, USA.com, or you can go to Coach Mongero, Mongero.com, and you'll start to see these things. We're going to be creating some content at a very affordable price, not memberships, just pure content, hitting routines, throwing routines, simple things that you could probably find maybe on YouTube, but you're going to have to dig it all up and try to put it all together and know what's good and what's bad. And we're going to try to assimilate the information, if that's the word, and, and just give you the stuff that we feel like really is the difference making stuff.
Great. I'll keep an eye out for it too. And everybody out there, I think you should, take a look at it, because believe me, what Coach Mongero comes up with, it's great stuff. So one other thing, because we're running out of time here, but there's something else that I got to go over with you. And again, this is for our listeners. Give me your opinion on what's happening with Little League and what's happening with travel baseball.
Yeah. It's the word that comes to mind is sad. I just think it's sad. I think there's this perception that if you're not playing travel ball at 7, 8, 9 years old, you're somehow going to get left behind. And we already kind of touched on it. Everything is so structured, get in a car, travel distances, stay in a hotel. And there's a part of that can be a little bit of fun, and maybe it makes you feel excited, you're doing this with your kid. And I'm not knocking it per se, but the good old Little League experience, there's nothing wrong with that. I mentioned Tabor, my son, I had a kind of I was strategic is the word that comes to mind. Strategic. I'm the adult. I'm going to, I understand because, I have more experience than most people in the baseball realm. But I knew that it wasn't going to do him any good to beat him down as a young player playing all tons of games. He would be better off having, some games with his team, whether it's Little League, whether it's a travel ball once he got to be to 12. But, keeping it fun and going and learning the skills and getting better at the skills so that you perform better in the games, having practices and all those things that are so important. And so going back to the Little League thing, travel ball is a business, and these tournaments make money. And ultimately, it gets more and more of a business the older the players get. So there's always this pressure that parents feel to put their kids on showcase teams, to take them to these showcase events, to play travel ball, to, because they feel like it's necessary. And there's a lot of people that will tell them it's necessary because they're benefiting financially from it. So you've got to have some sense of balance. You can learn just as much in Little League, staying right there in your own little town with your buddies, playing And then if you truly start to excel in the game, by the time you're 12, 13 years old, okay, maybe you start playing some travel ball. You better do your research on the teams, because most of them talk a really good game. There's a lot of people that can talk development, but when it comes to the sweat equity of truly creating practices where there's development taking place, it's it's just not happening very much.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money being spent, and you're not necessarily getting everything that you think you're paying for. It can be very frustrating. It's a very frustrating journey for a lot of people. Yeah. Just because there's just all these different things you have to navigate. And when you're spending a lot of money for something, there's almost this, you feel like you deserve to get something back. So, I think that's where a lot of the tension is created for playing time and different things like that, because mom and dad are forking out, large sums of cash for their kid to have this experience. And if they're just going places and sitting on the bench and spending money for hotels and food and travel, some cases plane tickets, that gets old, and it's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, we work hard for our money. Everybody does. So we could literally talk about this topic for days. Like, there's so many rabbit trails to go down. But I just think as a parent, you've got to be able to keep some perspective and not get so tied up emotionally to what's going on. Listen, your value as a parent has nothing to do with whether your kid's a good baseball player or not. And that shouldn't be their value as a human being either. It's a game.
Yeah.
You're good at a game. Some people are good at playing an instrument. One of the kids I grew up with, where I grew up in Yorktown Heights, New York, Dave Matthews of the Dave Matthews Band was my best friend growing up. Very, very close friend. Not my best friend, very close friend. Same grade, same school, before he moved away to South Africa in the 8th grade. My point is, Dave was into music. He was a pretty good athlete. But what if his parents would have forced him into baseball, or some other sport, because that's what they played, or they got some sort of why are you messing around with that guitar? You should be playing baseball. I mean, kids are skilled at different things. And, I just think it's a dangerous path to go down when you think your kid's got to be traveling the country at, 7, 8, 9, 10. So maybe you do a little bit of it at 9 or 10 years old, but you don't have to do it all fall. Also, go do something else, Right. Maybe your kid's meant to be a basketball player or a soccer player or a lacrosse player, who knows where their real skill sets lie and their passions if you never give them a chance to try other things. Yeah. And then when they get to high school, if they love baseball, I mean, they just love it. They love the work, they just can't get enough of it. And, and they want to specialize a little bit more, okay. I mean, if that's where your passions lie, and, then okay, maybe, but we start to specialize a little bit. But before then, you need to get out and do as many positive things as you possibly can.
Yeah, something that you said. First of all, you said you grew up in Yorktown Heights. I grew up in Putnam Valley. Once we moved out of Brooklyn, we moved to Putnam Valley. So we grew up like neighbors, and it's the next town over.
Yeah, no doubt. Very close neighbors.
As a matter of fact, my first coaching job was with the Shrub Oak Athletic Club.
What?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What years?
Oh, geez. Trying to think. My younger brother was a junior in high school, so that would have been like 82, 83. I coached their senior Babe Ruth when I was young. I was 21 years old, 22.
So I played Legion ball for Shrub Oak. I played Shrub Oak American Legion in 1984 and 1985. I graduated high school in 85. So I was on the American Legion team. We had Lakeland, Mayapack, Yorktown, maybe Kennedy, some from Kennedy. We had a very, very good team, actually, very good team. A lot of those guys went to play baseball in college.
My younger brother was a 3-year starter at Lakeland.
When did he graduate?
84.
So we would have 84. He would have pitched against me. I mean, we played Lakeland, Yorktown, and Lakeland, same conference.
Yeah.
Coach Dennis
Robinson.
Robinson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis Robinson.
Yeah.
He was a pretty good coach
Yeah.
for baseball, I thought, but good rivalries.
Yeah.
Good rivalries. Enjoyed that, Those Lakeland guys, Bill Prezioso, does that name ring a bell?
That's who my brother played with.
Yeah. So Billy and I still stay in touch. Bill played college ball at William and Mary. Of course, they're in our conference at UNC when I was at UNC Wilmington.
It's crazy. Like I said, it's such a small world. When I found out you were from Yorktown, I said, no way.
Right.
That just blew me away.
Yeah.
But so, Trent, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. I mean, this has been a pleasure. I've enjoyed this conversation. I could keep going until 2 o'clock in the morning with you talking baseball. If people want to reach out to you, email address, how do they get you on Facebook, Twitter, however, give people that information so that they can reach out to you.
Twitter, Coach Mongero, at Coach Mongero. We also have Dirt Bro USA on Twitter. Facebook is going to be Winning Baseball, Coach Mongero, Winning Baseball. Do a lot of posting on both of those. Instagram is Trent Mongero. I have an old account. Make sure you're getting the new account. And we have a Dirt Bro account also on Instagram, so Dirt Bro USA. So shoot me a message, follow me. Anything I can do to help out. Check out the infield camps. If you got an infielder, we'd love to see him at our Dirt Bro tour across the USA. We got camps all across the USA going on right now. DirtBroUSA.com, and they'll see those locations. And then we'll be putting out the new content. So be on the lookout.
Great. I want to thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know your time is valuable. I mean, I know you're constantly running all over the country with your clinics and stuff. So listen, good luck, and chat again sometime soon.
Yeah, let me know what you find out from Coach.
I will definitely let you know. Thanks again, Trent.
All right. Good talking to you, Jim. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye now.
So there you have it. I mean, that's Trent Mongero. Jonathan, what'd you think?
I thought it was excellent. There's a lot of things that we could talk about. I mean, we could speak for hours on a lot of these subjects, but a lot of good things for coaches, a lot of good things for parents, and a lot of good things for players.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, one of the fascinating things that I've always looked at as one of his, I guess I would say one of his greatest teachings is the way he teaches catch play.
Yeah, if you can't, my dad used to say you can catch the ball or catch the bus. My dad was a minor league field manager and infield coach. And that was his saying, catch the ball or catch the bus. And
Yeah.
part of that is, obviously the throwing part. Interesting, because growing up, my dad, we would go places I'd go with my father, and he goes, the way you can tell if a team's well coached. And I'm like, they play well. And he's like, no, watch them play catch before a game.
Yeah.
Watch them play catch.
Yeah.
And it's true. And I've watched every time I go after he said that, every time I go to a game, that's the first thing I do is I watch people warm up and see how they play catch.
Absolutely. Same thing. No different. I'm watching the other team. If they're good at their catch play, I know that we're gonna have our hands full that day, but they're playing, as Trent said, if they're playing fetch, then I know that we're probably gonna have an easier time.
Yeah, in high school is there's 21 outs.
Yeah.
So if you can play catch, you're going to make it you might be able to get those outs really quickly.
Yeah.
Can't play catch. More chances you give them, the more chance they got to beat you.
Yeah. It's funny because I always put a very, very high price on that part of practice. Our catch play, I've been an advocate for years. And for some reason, this past season, I kind of let it slip. And believe it, I mean, the varsity coach noticed, and believe me, when the season was over, we had a conversation about it. And it's a little bit embarrassing because, like I said, I put a very high price on it. And I don't know why. Maybe I was looking at other things, but I let it go. So I could tell you that it's never going to happen again.
Well, that's the hard part about being a coach too, though, is you see so many things that need to be done. You have limited time. So where you put your emphasis is really important.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe they needed emphasis elsewhere.
Yeah. 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 I also liked his take when we spoke about the difference between Little League and travel ball, what's going on. And you know what? I'm biased because his opinion is very similar to mine, where He was saying that it's really a shame what's happened to Little League Baseball.
Well, it's for a couple of reasons. One is the ability for kids to play. You know, when it's economically unviable for somebody to play the game, that's not good for anybody. And just the building of skills. And I can't say that it's worse now than it was when I played. I don't know, because I grew up in a completely different situation. My father was a really excellent coach, and so I would go to his practices, and that's how I learned to play the game.
Right.
Was going to his practices at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. So I can't say it's any worse now. I don't know. But what is worse is they don't practice. Kids don't practice like he had talked about. All they do is play games, and that's not where you know, if you think about it, baseball is simply, if it down to its essence, it's predicting where the ball is going to be at a point in time, right? So he who hits the most, hits the most. He who catches the most, catches the most, right?
Makes sense, sure.
Because all it is about predicting where a ball is going to be at a point in time.
Right.
So if all you're seeing is 10 pitches in a game, you know, and that may be generous for a game, if that's all you're doing, you're getting 10 reps in.
Right.
Now, if you're practicing and doing it right, not 25 mile an hour meatball, you know, stuff, but actually practicing the right way, you can't help but get better. Yeah. Somebody said this, and I don't know who it was. I don't remember, so this is not my original quote, but athletes and artists are analog in a digital age. If you want to be good, you got to be analog. You got to do it the old, slow way, which is just repetition, 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 repetition. There's no such thing as a great artist or a great athlete that doesn't hone their craft.
Sure. I mean, there's no way to get from point A to point B unless, you know, we talk about it all the time, unless you do the work.
Yeah, and I think what I really liked about that interview is he laid out how hard it is to be the starting shortstop or whatever Division I, if that was your goal.
Right.
And now you can even take that further, and let's talk. Okay, if you get drafted, because a lot of parents have unrealistic expectations based on how much their kid works. Not talent wise, because I think talent it's something that can be built through repetition.
Yeah.
Through repetition, you know, doing things the right way. So often, as the old Navy SEAL saying is you do it, you don't do it till you get it right. You do it till you can't get it wrong.
Right.
You know, that's the type of mentality that you need to have in order to succeed.
Well, the other thing that I liked in regards to what you were just talking about is how he said that, you know, I'm giving you these numbers not to discourage anyone. Because again, I would think that was probably people's like first immediate reaction to that is always trying to knock us down. We're not good enough. We're not good enough. No, you're good enough, but he's making you realize that there's a lot of work that you need to do. And if you don't do the work, well, then you can't expect to get there. You know,
there's a Kobe Bryant said it really well. He was like something to the fact that if you aren't working hard and you don't win, what do you expect?
Right.
You know, and that goes to the outcome, whatever that outcome is. If you're not doing the extra work, how can you expect to be a high school player? You don't do the extra work in high school, how can you expect to be the college player? If you don't do the extra work in college, how can you expect to be the minor league player? If you're in the minor leagues and you don't do the work, the extra work, how can you expect to be a big leaguer?
Right.
You know, if people think it gets easier as you get higher up, it gets a lot harder because you have to work that much harder.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, you know, I've said it a million times on the show that, you know, the higher the level you get, the more the competition evens out. Now you're playing with guys that are all the same ability as you, so you have to find a way to rise above it. And one of the things, too, that you just made me think of is when Eric Holtz was on, and I loved this when he said this. He said, and I'm sure I'll screw it up, but you'll get the idea. He said, how can you expect to put in 50% of anything and get out 100%?
Absolutely.
And I love that line.
Yeah. And to be fair, most people don't understand what it takes. If you're from a small area and you're the big bopper, if you will, you don't understand what it takes because you haven't seen, you haven't gone to, say, Tampa, Florida, where there's 1 million people and they're playing baseball, high-level baseball in high school or whatever. You haven't seen it, and you don't know it, and you don't know what it takes to work.
Yeah.
What kind of work it takes to get there.
Yeah. I've always said that one of the things I've seen over the years is the younger kids, let's say 12-year-old boys, okay? So you have a shortstop on your team, and the kid is talented at 12. And, everybody talks about this kid. Wow, this kid's a great baseball player, this, that, and the other thing. He can hit, he can field, he does this, he does that. I've seen many, many times over the years that kid, fall by the wayside. When meanwhile, the kid that was playing right field that nobody wanted to give a chance winds up playing in college for the same exact reason that you just said.
Yes. And it is, I look at my own son, that's what happened to him. Every team he tried to play on, they said, you can play in the outfield to start with. He ended up being a shortstop starting as a shortstop in college.
Yeah.
But where did he start out even in college? You can play the outfield.
Right. But
he just outworked everybody is what it came down to. But that's, that's my own personal story with my son. But, it's there. You have some genetic limitations maybe, but most people never reach those genetic limitations.
Yeah.
Very few people, the guys that are reaching genetic limitations, those are the guys that are, world-class marathoners, those types of people.
Right.
Most people don't even come close to it because they don't work hard enough.
Right. And, if you think about it, really, it's a simple concept. Really, it's a one-word concept, work. However, it's not easy to do.
No, it's not. It takes a ton of self-discipline.
Yeah.
A ton of self-discipline. There was a book that I read, I think it was called The Talent Code. Coyle, I think, was the author. It was really good. It talks about how to make somebody be a concert-level violinist or a world-class tennis player or whatever. It sat down and what the methodology is, and most people don't do it because it's focused work, and it's not like people think where it's like, okay, you're going to put in 20 hours a day. It's, you got to do the work, but it's got to be very focused, and you can't be going through the motions. If you're going through the motions, then it's just wasted time.
Right.
And most people aren't that focused. I know in my experience with myself and with working with other people, coaching or whatever, very few people take every rep.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
It's, I'm going to take this rep off. They may not think that, but they are.
Right.
So it's just extremely hard to do it. And the guys that can do it, that's the Derek Jeters, the Tom Brady's, that's what those guys are.
Right. And again, I feel like I'm going down memory lane here with some of our guests, but when we had on Travis Dorsch, who was from Utah State, he said, again, this is something that's so true. We were talking about fun, about having fun when you play in the sport. And he said he doesn't like to look at it like having fun. He says he looks at it like you have to enjoy. He said, because let's face it, the process to get better and the work that you have to put in, not necessarily fun, but if you enjoy the grind, if you enjoy the process, that's going to make you better, and then you're going to have fun. So I just love the way he put that.
Yeah, it's Trent's talked about the process too, and a lot of people don't understand what process really means. But process is everything.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah. So I really want to thank Trent for coming on. It was a fantastic show. I could have talked to him for hours upon hours and kept going. Unfortunately, he had things to do, like like he usually does. He's a very busy guy. And Jonathan, I want to thank you for coming on and help me get this episode out. It's always a pleasure to speak to you.
I appreciate what you do because it's hard being a parent. It's hard being a little league coach or a amateur coach. It's not your full-time job. Being a parent's a full-time job, but being a coach isn't. But neither of them, there's no manual out there. There's no book. Lord knows I've screwed up enough. But anytime you can get information, get experiences from other people who are knowledgeable, that's awesome. And you're doing a great thing and allowing people to get those experiences.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. But, again, and I know you're the same way. We're passionate about what we do. To me, this is fun. I mean, when you and I have a conversation, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying the process. I enjoy it. And to be able to get to talk to all of these people that I've met in the last 2 years, better than 2 years, this is not work for me. This is fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's really neat to think about it. When we talked, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
You were like, I got to do this podcast. And how far it's come and what the people that you've been able to get. Think about the people you've been able to get, right? That just says something a little bit about the community, too, that everybody's willing to share.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because most people are not on your podcast selling things, which is unusual, like most podcasts are, where, hey, I'm really here just to plug a book, or I'm here to plug something else. It's not about that.
Yeah. And I mean, this whole podcast, I give credit to several people for this happening. One was Bill Clark, a dad of one of my players. You, because I don't even know if you remember, you probably do, but you made me set timeline to get this out. And, hey, did you get there? Where are you? Da-da-da-da-da. And finally it happened. And, again, thank you so much. And there's many people I have to thank for getting this out there.
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
It's providing value to people, which is important.
Yeah. I mean, because, in the end, really, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.